to South Carolina State University's 1890 Research and Extension's Hemp Webinar Series. We're so glad that you had the opportunity to join us again for another informational session on hemp. This is by far one of our most popular topics. So we're glad that you're able to join us today. We are located in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and it's so raining. I mean, it's raining a lot today. So it's probably a good day just to be inside and learn a little bit more about hemp. So like I said, this is South Carolina State University's 1890 Research and Extension Program, and we are the public service arm of South Carolina State, and we offer public service programs and activities through 36 of the 42 counties in South Carolina. We do have 7 regional offices throughout the state that allow us to kind of get out there and reach the constituents of South Carolina. In addition to the programs and services, we also conduct research that looks at some of the issues impacting South Carolinians, and our researchers, along with our student researchers, try to develop solutions or discover solutions that help address those issues. So today, as I said, we're here for the hemp webinar. And today we have Dr. Florence Anoruo, who is a plant biologist with South Carolina State University, and she's also our hemp specialist through the 1890 Research and Extension Program. And she has partnered today with Jason Eargle, who is a managing member of Hempgrid. And Hempgrid is a consortium that's comprised of manufacturing, legislative, and technology experts that look at pooling their resources together to help elevate the hemp industry. And so we are so excited that the two of them have partnered together to be able to address some of the issues and concerns that you all may have as it relates to hemp, especially as you look to launch into this space. So I am going to toss today's webinar to Dr. Anoruo, but
I had to go some kind of way through a vent, but I had a trouble time finding the
okay, Mark, you need to.
Oh, hang on.
And that's what I was going to say. Just a little housekeeping rules. Please make sure you keep your devices on mute. We have a lot of great information, and we want to make sure that everyone can hear. So please keep your devices on mute. And then if you have questions, please place them in the chat feature, and I will gladly ask your questions to today's presenters, and we'll go from there. So Dr. Anoruo, take it away.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm excited again. This is our second webinar series. There were lots of questions, our first seminar that we gave last week. So we're hoping that at the end of this seminar, you have a lot more answers to your questions. I deferred a lot of the questions to this webinar because I know that my presenter and partner, Mr. Jason Eargle will be talking more about a lot of the questions that you asked during the last webinar, especially on the industry side, as well as part of the production. And so today we're going to cover the basics that we think that industrial hemp growers, both beginner growers and those who have already done it, need to have. But also we'll have other series coming up on industrial hemp, but those series will be more targeted to specific areas and questions. So today will be a general informational session for you to get majority of the questions that you asked before and the knowledge that you need to get into the hemp production, or if you're into sales or processing and answers. So again, welcome for those who are joining us for the first time. And welcome back for those who are rejoining us the second time around. I'm going to share my slide.
If someone has their device unmuted, please mute your device. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So as you can see, the title of our webinar session today is Industrial Hemp Production and Industry Basics, Unearthed. We chose that, Jason and I chose this title because we thought it would cover a lot of what we talk about. So today you will hear more about some basic information on seedling, your soil preparation, seedling selection or seed selection, care of the plants while before you put them in the ground, or if you're growing in the greenhouse, what happens after they mature, nutrients and all of those. I will cover a portion of that, and then I'll let Justin handle. He's going to cover majority of that because he's a new partner that we have. We are collaborating as part of the industrial hemp program at the 1890 research and extension. So he'll be covering that. Also, towards the end of his presentation, he will also talk about some of the collaborations and then talk about the team at South Carolina State University. So I always put this in my slide because it's very amazing to me that this plant has all of this basis. But Mr. Jason Eargle will also talk a little more about that. So again, this plant is a very amazing plant with 1,000 uses depending on who you talk to. And so I always leave that slide. I always put it in my presentations. Okay. So let's talk about the industrial hemp cultivation must-dos. So for many of you, as I mentioned, you're either attending this seminar to get information to decide whether you'll be growing hemp or you're already growing but you wanted to get more information. So if you are, especially for a beginning farmer, hemp farmer, one of the very important things you need to know is before you get into the hemp business, in addition to selecting whether you're growing for CBD oil, for fiber or grain, you also have to know what you need to do to make sure that your end products are what you're supposed to be, and then that you don't lose your investment. And one of that is your soil. And as you know, especially with CBD production, if your soil is not tested from the beginning, you may end up with a product that has very little or no value. Because as you see here, depending on what where your land is located and what use that land has been put in previously, it might have some pesticides or herbicide residues. So the testing of your soil allows you to know what's in your soil from the beginning. Also, it allows you to know the nutrient status of your soil. That is very important because industrial hemp is very specific, like other crops, as to the amount of nutrient that you need to put in. For example, NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Those things are given to the plant in different ratios. So if you know your nutrient status, then you can give the adequate amount of nutrient, because too little of anything, it's not good, and also too much of anything is not good as well. So you need to know the nutrient status of your soil so that you can adequately deliver nutrients in the right dose for your plant. And that's why soil testing is very important. Here, and the picture to my right is one of my students, and this is one of the farms that I collaborated in Branchville, South Carolina. And you can see here, the first thing that we did was to test the soil. So the soil was not just tested for the nutrient, but like I said, pesticides and herbicide. And believe it or not, during our testing, we found out that some of the farmland that was supposed to be used for industrial hemp has high levels of pesticides, some even heavy metals in them, and that allowed the farmer to make the decision to not grow on those particular land. And the ones that gave the right results, the farmer decided to do that. So on this slide, I'm talking about other things that you must look at. So when you decide to grow, then you have to talk about your seeds. What are you getting your seeds? And of course, your seed source is very, very important. There's so many companies now touting seeds for CBD oil or for fiber or grain, and they all claim their seeds are the best. But you need to make sure that you have the reputation of your the seed company. Mr. Eagle also talked a little bit more about how you can look up the seed companies and make sure that they have good reputation. Those that deliver seedlings, as you see right here on the right, many times they'll send you pictures of very healthy seedlings, and then when they deliver the hundreds of seedlings that you actually ordered, you'll find that many of them are not what they were supposed to be. And so on the right here, I just put a picture of some of the seedling, what you need to look for. Of course, the root development tells you the health of the seedling. You can see here that these seedlings here have very healthy root system. They're white, and also the seedlings themselves are very healthy. Their leaves are green. There are no brown spots or anything. So those are things you have to look for. And then, of course, once you decide this, other things you have to decide about growing hemp is once you've tested your soil and everything is fine, then you decide, of course, whether you're growing for CBD or for fiber or grain. Then your farm design is based on that, the variety, because the spacing of the plants is dependent on whether you're growing for CBD oil, for fiber, or grain. And so here again, we are just measuring the row, the spacing between the rows, so the students get that adequate knowledge. There is a spacing requirement, but it varies from variety to variety. And also some farmers may tend to go closer than what is required, to get more planting in their acreage. And so what I have is just it's just a suggested spacing, row spacing. But in some cases, you can go above that, especially if your variety is one that takes up a lot of space. And then also here on this particular slide, I said it's all about genetics. Again, your genetics referring to the varieties that you are interested in. For the CBD, and grain or fiber production, there's so many different varieties that are, again, touted to be the best of the best. But you have to have knowledge of what is it that is the best. So when you're buying your seed or your seedlings, one of the things you need to look for is the chemical profile. We talked a little bit about in the last webinar session. And so the chemical profile, what people are looking for, especially for CBD oil, is how much CBD do you get at the end of your cultivation period. And most farmers, most growers are looking for CBD concentrations that are at least 15% or above. And so that's what you need to look for. Now, remember also that percentage can go down or up depending on if you're doing everything right. Your nutrients, your moisture content, which is your watering regimen. And so those are the things that could affect the chemical profile. In addition to what I mentioned before, the weather in your specific area. In South Carolina here, the weather goes up and down, so you have to also monitor all of that. Also, when you're selecting your seed or seedling varieties, you also need to look at the area that you live. Do you have a lot of rain, or is it a little dry? And then in that case, you tend to look for not just the CBD concentration, but you have to look at, are they disease resistant, mold resistant? Because if you plant and the variety is not a mold resistant variety, then you might end up losing a lot of your investment. The buds that the CBD oil is extracted from, once it's molded, it actually goes downhill. Okay, the same with fiber as well. And then, of course, when you buy your seeds, again, you have to, the seed sellers and the seedlings, they're supposed to give you what they call COA, Certificate of Analysis. And that tells you the chemical profile of the plant. And that gives you an idea. But again, that chemical profile can change depending on what is happening in the ground once you plant the plant. So here, another very important thing is what happens when you actually bring in your seedlings to your place of planting. So if you're going with seeds, then you will not have this problem on this slide because you're going to plant directly into your row beds. But if you're going with the seedlings, of course, when they come, many of them come on moderately refrigerated trucks because they don't want them to dry out. When they come back, when they come into your farm or your location, you have to make sure that you have enough storage space for them. And then you also have to scout for those things that I mentioned at the beginning, looking at individual plants, making sure their root systems are healthy, making sure the leaves are healthy, looking for any type of insects or pests that may have come in. Because if they bring in one or two pests, and depending on the number of plants you're putting out there in the farm, you can have an infestation by the time you know it, and that will again diminish your profit margin at the end. Good airflow is very important because those seedlings have to be acclimated to be before you put them in your farm. And part of that is to making sure they're getting enough water while they're waiting to be transplanted into the farm, and also the nutrients. Even while they're waiting to be put into the ground, you still need to be delivering nutrients to them so that you have strong, healthy seedlings. Because the very first stages of growth, once you put them in your garden, is very, very important. If they're not healthy enough, you will lose a lot of them. And one of the things that you have to look at is making sure that you're not replacing dead plants once you've planted, and that slows your planting period down, because some plants will be planted and then 2 weeks later you have to go in and remove the ones that are dead or looking sickly, or sometimes if they're diseased due to stress or because you didn't check them out before put them out there, they might also spread disease to the healthy ones. So it's very important that before you plant, you check every seedling, if you're going with seedling, to make sure that they are healthy and their root systems are strong. The airflow, again, stops mold or stops spread of diseases while they're waiting to be transplanted. One of the things that farmers need to also take into consideration is, and a lot of times for many crops, agricultural crops, that may not be a problem. Looking at your soil moisture content is very, very important also, because that allows you to know whether irrigation is a must. Irrigation is usually recommended for industrial hemp because it helps for you to produce a healthy crop. Also, if you have good irrigation system, you can actually deliver your nutrients through the irrigation system. But in the absence of that, you have to make sure that you know what your soil moisture content is. And also sometimes even check the temperature of the soil, because the soil temperature can affect root development and also diseases that come from the roots, and that will affect your plants. And a lot of this stress, in the first webinar I mentioned about the stress can cause the THC level to go slightly higher than what it's supposed to be. Because remember, the goal is to make sure that the TH level stays at that 0.3%, while your CBD level is what you want to go up. So if there's too much stress due to different environmental factors, the TH level might go slightly up, and that means that your crops are no longer good for sale. And of course, for now, the law is that you have to destroy them once the TH level goes above that. There's a little bit of leeway for the TH level, but it's still not enough if it goes higher. I believe right now it's about zero point, I think it's 0.06 is what your leeway is. So you still have to make sure you stay on that threshold. So I put this picture here because Mr. Eagle, my partner, is going to, and co-presenter, we're talking more about different stages of the plant. But here is just one of the varieties that we looked at. And this variety stays lower to the ground, but you can see here it is loaded with buds. And so when you're selecting your seeds and selecting your seedlings, you have to look at what do they look like? Are they growing bushier or are they growing tall? I couldn't put a lot of pictures here because we have to make sure we have time to present his portion and then talk about all the industry aspects of industrial hemp. But here it's a plant that has a lot of buds, and this is what you're actually looking for before you harvest. And then during harvest, you have to look for signs that your buds are ready for harvesting. And one of the things that you look for is the shiny trichomes. And I don't have that picture here, but I think he'll probably talk about that. And we usually go around with magnifying glasses and make sure that the trichomes show the glycerin signs, and that tells you that it's ready for harvesting. And once you harvest it, there's a whole new set of rules that you have to abide by to make sure that your harvested buds do not mold. And then, of course, before you then get into the processing, whether it's for CBD extraction. And so one of the things you have to know before you start to grow is to know your industry links, the producers around your state or around the place that you are for CBD, if that's what you're growing for, and for fiber. And as I mentioned in the first webinar, part of the resources we'll be providing to the farmers from the 1890 SSU part will be linking you with the people who are processing with a CBD or for fiber. And of course, we have our partner here, the Hempgrid, represented here by Mr. Jason Eargle. So he's also a resource that we will be linking our partner farmers and other people who would be working with us. So you have a lot of resources that we'll be sharing with you. So here is just a few common pests for industrial hemp. And these ones are the ones that you can visibly see. One of the ones that we actually experienced a lot was a silkworm, and I don't have that particular picture here, but you can see that the hemp. A lot of people would say that the hemp, because of the smell, do not have pests. They do have pests, but the important thing is to start scouting from time to time, because you want to know when the pest starts their invasion so you can get rid of it as quickly as possible. So in hemp cultivation, just like in any other agricultural production, integrated pest management is very, very important. And part of that is, first of all, identifying the pests at very early stages, trying to eliminate them, and then, of course, devising a way to take care of the pest problems once they occur in your hemp farm. So on this slide, it's some of the pesticides that you use for those common pests that I showed in the previous slide. So far, EPA have approved a lot of pesticide, about 57 right now. I think out of the 57, one is a non-biopesticide. And if you can see here, for those of you that don't know, this, oops, sorry, let me go back. The biopesticides are basically pesticides that are derived from natural sources. So, for example, the neem oil is extracted from the neem plant. So a lot. That's why they're called biopesticide. And why is this important? Because especially if you're growing for CBD, you don't want any remnants of any type of synthetic pesticide in the CBD oil because that would drive down your market value, and even some people may not even buy your product because they want CBD oil that is pure, free of pesticides or herbicides or any type of chemicals. So these are the list of this, but we'll have these resources available from the 1890 SCSU portion. And then, of course, we have other resources. The USDA office in Colombia also has a lot of resources that deal with the pesticides. Then, of course, this slide is just a slide that I put in here just to talk about the industrial hemp common profile of chemicals. And there are so many chemicals that industrial hemp has, but the three common ones that people tend to look for, at least for now, because it's going to change as we get into more of the industrial hemp production and as more people discover the uses of these different pesticides. So right now, CBD is very, very popular. And then, of course, the CBN is another cannabinoid that is also becoming popular. So over time, some more of this profile will come up. And Justin will talk more about that. Again, your goal is to make sure that you maintain the THC level at this percentage, and so that you can now profit from this one and this one. The CBD and CBN, depending on the variety that you choose for your production, the concentration that you get will also vary. Like I said, some very good varieties will give you very high CBD oil concentrations, and others will give you an average. So you're trying to make sure that you're looking for those that give you the chemical profile that you want. But at the same time, you also want to get the varieties that not only give you those CBD high level concentration, but also that are disease resistant and also drought resistant as well. And for this slide, I just wanted to thank the director of the SCSU 1890 Research and Extension, Dr. Whiteside. It's exciting that we are finally going into the hemp research space, and we are ready and prepared to deliver and to provide resources for all of our farmers. During the introduction, you heard the number of places and agents and the places that we have offices, the 1890 office. So we will be touching the lives of many farmers, and with our partners such as the Hempgrid and other partners that will be providing genetics and other resources. I think we're in a good space and we're ready to continue to grow in the industrial hemp research area. And I will now turn over to um, Jason, and he will also introduce the rest of I didn't want to put it in here because it'd be repetitive, but he will talk about the other members of our hemp team, of our 1890 research team. We have Dr. Idasi, Dr. Edo, and Dramen. We work as a team, and this is an exciting time. And again, thank you all for listening. And I implore you to continue to listen, and then all questions will be saved to the end of the presentations, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions that will be directed to me and Mr. Jason Eargle. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anoruo. Can you guys hear me okay? I guess give me a thumbs up if y'all can hear me. All right, let me share my screen and go into my slides here. So I'm going to mention some of the things that Dr. Anoruo spoke about, and then go a little bit deeper dive into some things, talk more about the industry, and then we'll take deeper dives into each of these topics as we go through our series. So bear with me. Can you guys see my screen okay? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Well, as a Orangeburg, South Carolina native, I am it's my pleasure to be a part of this presentation and the series of webinars that are coming forward with South Carolina State University. I'm very excited about how proactive SC State has been involved in getting the front end of the hemp industry, helping the community through extension and the research that goes on at the university, all the information getting out to our South Carolina community and beyond to help provide the knowledge that is needed to be successful in this very rapidly changing industry. Real quick introduction on myself. Started in this industry about 5 years ago. I did my graduate work from 2014 to 2016 at Clemson, and had this crazy idea that sort of push that movement in South Carolina a little bit faster than it was moving. Here we are in 2021, and I've grown a few years, and I've learned a lot of what to do. I've learned a lot about what not to do. So I'm going to share some of the good, bad, and the ugly from my experiences. And just know that we'll be having more deeper dives into these topics I'm going to go over as our hemp production series continues with South Carolina State University. I am a managing member of Hempgrid. We're based in South Carolina and have a lot of individuals from different industries, which is what is necessary to build out the economics around and the supply chain around this industry, so that we can create a better world and a more profitable agricultural industry. So thank you, Dr. Anoruo, for all of the topics you went over. I'm going to take a little deeper dive into some of those, and we'll be glad to answer questions at the end. Dr. Anoruo said, and I will repeat because I put this slide on my presentations every time too. Cannabis sativa, aka hemp. Hemp is a legal term, which is 0.3% THC or less, is the most versatile and useful plant on the planet. You look here at all the different things that it can do between its stalk, flowers, roots, etc. It's really a game changer, and I'm really excited to see it. It's really starting to get more research and involvement in our community, in our country, and going forward in our agricultural industry. Here's another little slide on all the uses. Because this is recorded, you can go back and look at some of these slides and see what type of the industry, part of the industry you may want to be involved in. But as you guys have all seen on the news articles and on television, more and more industries are adopting hemp into their production and their manufacturing, which is very exciting because it's a more sustainable aspect of manufacturing. Here's a little history you can go back and look at, go back 10,000 years to current day when you look at the recording. Going to this next slide here, I really want to take a minute to talk about the economic forces and analyzing the market around hemp and how it's changing very quickly. The supply chain around hemp is still very immature. Even though this plant has been around for eons, because it was outlawed for so long, we've lost a lot of knowledge, and we've lost a lot of its inputs into our manufacturing processes, into our processing, into our cultivation. So building out a supply chain is very important in order to create a sustainable industry that will supply profit margins and revenue for our farming communities. So you look here at cultivation, all the way into processing and manufacturing of all different types of products when it comes to sustainable packaging, medicinal health and wellness products that you see a lot in the news in regards to to CBD and CBG. There's so many other uses that it has when it comes to the fiber. The fiber is the strongest natural fiber on the planet. So there's so much promise for our country to really get into a more sustainable manufacturing system around the fiber as well. We have not done a lot of fiber production in the United States yet. Most of that is overseas. It's something that I know that South Carolina State University and Hempgrid is really excited about getting more and more involved with. And so we'll all learn together as we create that part of the industry. Supply chain is very important. Hempgrid is working on helping build that supply chain so that we can create economics around the industry and around the ag side of it, so that our farmers can be profitable and can make money and have a very sustainable crop.
Hey, Jason, this is Liz. I just want to make you aware your audio is kind of breaking up here and there.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to get closer to the mic or what, but there is some little glitches going on with your audio.
Let me try. How does it sound now? Is it any better?
It sounds good, but I don't know if as you're talking it may break up. I just wanted to make you aware that.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'll turn the volume down a little bit. I can't wait till we can all get in person together. So we talk about market forces, and this slide here is showing you what the industry has been dealing with over the last couple of years. When I joined the industry in 2016, 2017, Kentucky was probably one of the only states that was growing, only one of the southern states that was growing hemp. Colorado's and the western states were growing, but the 2018 Farm Bill had not come into play. South Carolina got in 1 year early before the federal Farm Bill in 2018. And so what you see here, all of these downward trending lines, is the different prices for the different types of products in the industry. And between October 2019, October 2020, because of more legalization and more production and supply, demand economics, you obviously see the price going down. So we've got anywhere between 30 to almost 90% price decreases across the industry, which has been a big issue for a lot of the farmers and processors and distribution channels and retailers. So I think you have about almost 50% of the folks that were growing or in the CBD industry are no longer in the industry in the last couple of years. So I think the prices are stabilizing, but that's what we've been really dealing with a lot. So it's been challenging. We're learning a lot about the market forces that interact with this industry, and we're also getting better at growing. So SC State and Hempgrid are trying to help educate so that we can make everybody's margins and everybody's profitability as much as possible. This is a quick slide you can come back and look at that shows the production amounts, the acreage. I think I read about 30% last year. We had about 30% drop in reported acreage across the United States. That acreage is always going to be a little underreported because folks are not reporting 100% of the acreage that they may be growing. That'll get better and better as the regulations are more robust from the USDA and the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. Here's a breakdown by state of acreage in 2020. So these slides I'm getting from is from a site called Hemp Benchmarks. I think it's a very valuable site if you're going to go and get into the industry, because it gives you spot pricing indexes for all different types of products, from the crop loads for grain, fiber, or the cannabinoids for the health and wellness side. And you can see where it's at. I believe you can get either a monthly or a yearly subscription. So it's something you may want to check out, before you grow, and then as you're approaching harvest, it'll help you understand. So I highly recommend Hemp Benchmarks. It's something to really look at from the external market forces that are at play. So after we've analyzed our industry and the market forces at play, we also need to take a look obviously, at who is going to be our purchaser, our buyer. I highly recommend anyone who is growing for economic reasons, not for just pure research, to really have a buyer in place or multiple LOIs, contracts in place before you get into the industry. There are millions of pounds of biomass sitting around the United States right now unsold. A lot of it's in South Carolina as well. So having a buyer is of the utmost importance. Once you've got that figured out, as Dr. Anoruo said, genetics is the next most important thing. Genetics take the form of seeds, transplants, aka seedlings, which are seeds that are germinated and sprouted for transplanting into the field, kind of like tobacco used to be done, as well as clones, which is a carbon copy of the plant that you're cloning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about genetics and sort of resources to go to try to find more about, what type of crop you want to grow, where to seek out and how to research the best genetic providers. So the basics here are decide on what you want to achieve. So do you want to grow for fiber? Do you want to go for grain? Do you want to go for cannabinoids? That's going to obviously drive how you and where you go to look for your genetics. Liz, does it sound any better on my end?
It's still a little garbly.
Okay. Sorry. We'll re-record this and send it out as well. So you focus on the good genetics. For cannabinoid basis, you want to have feminized seeds for the most part. We have grown with non-feminized seeds before. Just know that you really have to early and often get to the male plants to pull them out if you're growing for a cannabinoid type of product. Non-feminized seeds are obviously less expensive than feminized seeds. Feminized seeds means they're all going to be female, which is what you want when you're growing for a cannabinoid product. You want to take a look at the hemp seed company's history and reputation. Doing your due diligence on different companies is paramount. I can tell you that from personal experience, I have sold seeds before, and based on certain individuals who have purchased those seeds, some may have different results than others, and so you want to make sure that you have you've done your due diligence there. I can help you with that. My phone number and contact information will be at the end of the presentation, so you can reach out to me. Customer service is very important as well. So you want to make sure that you have a good rapport with your seed company and your genetics provider. Here's a list of some seed traits that you want to look for when it comes to cannabinoids. I don't have a ton of experience in growing fiber. I know that Clemson University has done a little bit of fiber growth, so you may want to reach out to them. So most of what I'm going to go through at a high level is based on cannabinoid production. Starts out with the greenhouse. If you're going to be doing, genetics production, maybe purchasing from a genetics provider. However, that genetics provider will be using a greenhouse or an indoor facility to produce their genetics. So knowing kind of how that goes about, or if you want to do it yourself, there's a slide here on sort of how to do your timing, how to select what type of soil and temps you want to use. Some photos of some greenhouses that I've operated in over the years. Here's some information regarding the greenhouse specifics when it comes to planting using a vacuum seeder, a drum seeder, or needle seeder. That go a little bit more into the spacing, the depth of the soil surface, as well as the proper amount of moisture and vermiculite that you need to apply to the trays of seeds that you're putting inside your greenhouse. Here's a little look at different options on trays that you'll be putting the seedlings in. And then down at the bottom, some more information around the moisture levels. We actually figured out, as we've been going through cold weather right now in South Carolina, we figured out a couple of years ago when we were doing greenhouse work that we had soil sitting outside the greenhouse and it took forever to warm it up. So we had to put it inside the greenhouse ahead of time. So if you're doing a bunch of soil, if you're buying, a pro mix of organic, you may want to, bring it into your greenhouse where it's warm a few days prior so that it can be thawed out or deal with these winter temperatures as you're getting ready for your grow season. You can look up here at the temp, the desired temperature between 78 and 82 degrees. Obviously, it depends on what you're growing for. Moisture levels are very important as well when you're trying to germinate. Germination should take between 5 to 10 days. I can give people more details on exactly how and how we did our germination process in the greenhouses. There's a little bit of an eye chart, but it goes through more of the greenhouse work. Take a look and read through this information. When you have more questions, please reach out to South Carolina State University or myself, and we can help you out. Continuing on the greenhouse, we're getting into the planting stage. And with planting, you want to make sure that you get the plants hardened, as they call it, before it goes outdoors. If you're planting outdoors, hardening is gradually getting them used to the sunlight and temperatures they're going to be dealing with once they're outside of the protected environment of their indoor greenhouse space. So if you look, we'll make sure they don't have transplant shock, transplant stress. So hardening beforehand helps quite a bit. Can you guys still see my screen? Okay, thank you. Continue here. So you can see down the bottom, we'd like to begin hardening the plants around 5 to 7 days prior to putting them in the field. So you're going to kind of work backwards on your calendar when you're planting. Desired planting around here in South Carolina, May to June, maybe a little bit of April, but you want to make sure you have the last frost, which is traditionally early April around here in South Carolina. Here's a photo of some plants in our greenhouse a couple years ago, last year. This is in Columbia. Let me try. Am I still breaking up? Let me try to see if I can't fix this audio.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I don't understand. Bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to call into the maybe audio on the phone.
Okay.
That way might help. Is there a phone number for this?
Yes. Let me find it first and I can pop it into the chat.
While I'm getting that phone number, you can take a look here and see that. So after we've selected genetics and done preparation, and during that, actually simultaneously, preparation Dr. Anoruo covered is very important. Doing the soil testing that Clemson University of South Carolina State University can help you out with. Look for heavy metals or pesticides, residuals. Is very important. Also, you want to take a look and see what your NPK levels that are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, in addition to sort of how you want to what kind of lime you may want to add to get your pH right for your soil once you're ready to plant. This needs to be done in preparation before you put the plants in there.
Jason, I just placed the number in chat if you want to.
Okay.
Oh no, hold on. I just.
If you want to give it to me, I'll just call my phone right now.
Okay, so 1-415-655-0001. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. Access code, please.
655-0001.
You need the meeting number, right?
Yes, please.
1-800-217-4868.
408.
1-800-217.
Mhm.
217. Okay, you want to start over?
408. 408.
No, 4869.
Enter your attendee ID number, followed by pound. If you do not know your attendee.
Okay, let's start over. So 1-800-217.
Welcome to WebEx.
Okay.
Then 4869.
Enter your attendee ID number, followed by pound. If you do not know your attendee number, press pound to continue. You're muted.
Is that not letting you do it?
Yeah, I'm in there now. 1 second. I just got to mute.
Okay, I think you need to turn your device from off mute. Talk. I don't think we can hear you, Jason.
Yeah, Jason, let's make sure your phone is off mute. I think your phone is probably on mute, or turn your volume up on your phone.
No, can't hear you. Mike, do you want to see if you can take him off? Well,
Yes, let me do it.
thank you, everybody, for your patience. This is the beauty of being live. No, Jason.
Okay. Tried that, didn't work. Apologize. Keep going forward with these slides, and we'll get a connection here. We'll get a round of these, and I can go through it and record it and share it with South Carolina State for everybody's benefit later on. So I'll breeze through these next.
I think you just put yourself on mute, Jason.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, you're good. Okay.
All right, I will record all of this and share with SC State so that folks on the call can see it a little bit later. Apologize for the connection issues here. We're prepared the field. We're getting ready to plant. Here's some transplants in the PD region back in 2018 before we planted. Here's some information on pre-planting with information when it comes to how to protect plants. So after you've hardened the plants off, you've got some kaolin clay that can help as a sunscreen. It helps deter pests, so you may want to put that on there before you put them in the ground. Having the right equipment when it comes to spraying down with the nutrients in the water is very important. So you really have to take a look at what you want to do with how much you want to grow, where you want to use, how much equipment what you want to use, how much you have on site as well. So we've pre-planted, we're getting ready for that. We're ready to go into the field. I've seen everybody try to do direct seeding with limited success. I've done transplanting myself and hand planted. Which way you plant, fish emulsion for fertility and root shield is very, very effective in helping protect the plants in their most early and infancy stages so that they can grow and be the big plants we want them to be. Here's a little bit of a video from 2018 and some planting we did using an old Holland transplanter in the PD region of South Carolina. This was a transplanter that existed on site. So, use what you have. Right now with the margins being the way they are, you'd like to, try to minimize and limit costs as much as possible. Use what you have to the best of your ability or cooperate with your neighbors. Here's some information on spacing. Obviously, this is a variety on spacing depending on how you're going to grow, what type of genetics you have, what your end product may be, so that you really need to take a look, and you can call South Carolina State, you can call me for some more information about your proper spacing for an individual plant or product that you're looking for to produce at the end. Here's some lists of some transplanters we used. First year was that old Holland tobacco transplanter. The next year we borrowed a Ferrari, which was pretty nice, a lot more precise. Find out what you have, look at your budget, see what you can use. This is around irrigation. The first year we did not use any irrigation. This plant's very hardy when it comes to lack of water. So use what you have. Drip tape on smaller grows is important. It can be very useful. Overhead obviously is desirable if you have it. So the situation is a little bit different. Please reach out. We can give you more information on that. Some more information on cover cropping and cultivation. We're getting into the cultivation aspect. Having working rows, skip rows, so that you can, come in there with work and do side dressings, fertilization, nutrient application, things like that. It's important to have a working row. These plants can get very bushy. So here's some spacing information and some recommended cover crops here in South Carolina that can help you out. Some timing on planting, May, June, I think from what we found is the most desirable time. And if you plant late in June, you do not want to top the crop. But if you plant a little bit earlier, just like tobacco, you may want to top the crop because it can push it out and create more yield as you get down the road. Here's a picture in the PD, the first planting we did back in 2018. This crop ended up being very nice. As you see there, we did not use any plastic. There's different people will have different ideas about that. I would really like personally to try to really get involved with the no plastic use. It is very helpful in limiting your weed pressure. Here's the aforementioned Ferrari transplanter, which obviously sees a little more updated than the Holland that we used year one. This was really nice. We borrowed this and used this with a company down in Wabala Island. So once we've got the plants going in the ground, cultivation is really important. Dr. Anoruo talked about the pressure from pests and weeds. So this appears to go over some of those issues. If you look at the picture on the right, you can see the silkworm, the corn armyworm there, which we found was very excited about the plants in the field in 2018 and something that we had to deal with. So we dealt with stink bugs, leaf-footed bugs, and because most of the cannabinoid products are organic, you have to be limiting in what you put in there with when it comes to organic treatments. I saw someone mention ladybugs. We tried ladybugs year one, fair to middling results. It all depends on your situation. Fertility, here's some recommendations on the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium when it comes to per acre and how to begin your foliar sprays. If you look at the top there, You want to look at the soil samples you might get from Clemson or South Carolina State. Don't really have a hemp benchmark right now. We're working on that inside the state, but you really want to, I guess, go with tobacco or corn is the closest that we have. I think there's some universities around the country that are getting closer on that. But for now, you know, take a look at your soil samples and address the NPK levels according to recommendations from SC State and Clemson. Here's some pictures of 2 different types of genetics that we grew. On the left here is a Canadian genetic called Victoria. On the right is a very familiar box or boax, as some call it. Top left, a little bit more narrow and skinny. Bottom or right side, you know, bushier and lower to the ground. Here's some looks at the plants that we produced in 2018, 2019. Very healthy field with no irrigation and no plastic. We were very happy with this crop. This is right before harvest time. So you're starting to see, as Dr. Anoruo said, the trichomes glistening, the milky glow around the plant. This is about ready for harvest. This is probably like late August, I believe. Here's some videos inside of the field as you go through. These plants were not topped. And as you'll see a little later, they got a little too tall for us due to some weather that we had coming. This gives you an idea of walking through a row of, right here is the box. I'm just showing you a little bit of wind here, a bushier, lower plant. These were about, I guess, about chest high for me. I'm about 5'9", and the ones on the left were about 8 to 10 feet high. So we're getting ready for harvest. 12 weeks after the solstice, depending on when you plant. You'll start seeing the flag leaves, the fan leaves drop. Any seed, if you do have non-feminized genetics, will start to shatter and drop. And then you'll see the trichomes and the cannabinoids glistening. So when you look at those microscopic lenses, you'll really get to see the crystallization around the plant, around the buds. So we harvested, unfortunately, right after Hurricane Florence in 2018. Our crop took a big hit, and we'll go over risk a little bit later here in a few minutes. But yeah, our crop took about over a 50% hit from Hurricane Florence. So we harvested right afterwards, which we know in South Carolina, hurricanes come right around harvest time, which is September, October. We must follow all the state and federal sampling and testing protocols when it comes to the THC levels. So, you know, make sure you're in touch with this part of agriculture so that you're up to date on that. At the bottom, you're looking to see, again, the handheld microscopes are very, very effective. You really want to start testing yourself before you harvest. The state requires 1 test, but you should test a couple times yourself to see, make sure you're not getting hot as the THC going over the threshold. We'll go over just some pictures of harvesting here. This is our first year we used tobacco barn to dry. There's multiple ways you can dry. We tried both ways. We tried using tobacco barns as well as using a desiccant system in the warehouse. Here's a little bit more about harvesting. Moisture content, I think I'd like to adjust this number a little bit. I think 10 to 14% is probably good, depending on, you know, some of this might be stored for a while, so we want to make sure it doesn't get too dry out, knowing that you can cure a little bit later. Some information at the bottom bullet points here is on forced air drying and using tobacco barns. Multiple ways you can dry. Reach out to South Carolina State University or myself, give you more information specifically on that. Here's us loading the hemp into a tobacco barn box. This is after harvest and production and basically packaging and curing. You know, putting it in super sacks, getting it ready for movement. This is on a more bulk weight. If you're doing an acre or 2, you may do it differently. We grew this first year. We did 2 15-acre plots, so about 30 acres. Here's the other way that we dried and cured. This is using a desiccant system in the warehouse. We were dealing with a hurricane, the aftermath of Hurricane Florence, which is devastating. So we try to get into a dry place as quickly as possible using a desiccant system to air it out. You can see at the top there the tubes that are running in there. It's my dog there on the left. She was growing the plants. Give you more information about that in the sessions to come. So risk management. I mentioned this picture here is a picture of our crop right before harvest. And unfortunately, if you look to the right and to the bottom left, you'll see what our crop looked like after Hurricane Florence came through. Blown over, touching the ground, a pretty devastating sight. So in addition to the weather risks that we deal with on all types of crops, you're going to deal with market risks, all different types of pest risks. So you really have to be cognizant of those risks and make sure that you're not getting over your head, when you start out in this journey. Year one, if you're starting a producer, I highly recommend you go, smaller grows to begin with, so that you can learn and then add on and expand as you gain more knowledge and you understand what the risk may be. But this is what we dealt with year one. And year two, for example, with Hurricane Dorian. USDA last year announced that we're going to have more hemp crop insurance eligibility around the country. However, that has not reached South Carolina yet. So just want everybody to just keep up to date with the USDA, SCDA, SC State on the current rules and regs and benefits and products that insurance and risk management may be provided around the country. Want to say again, thank you so much to South Carolina State University for beginning this series. I'm really happy to see how proactive they are in really kicking off and trying to help our community in the state get more educated and more involved in the hemp industry. I'd like to thank Dr. Florence Anoruo for inviting me and sharing all the research that she's done and her knowledge. This will be the first of many more specific production-based and market-based webinars that we're going to do. So I just wanted to go through some of the South Carolina State University individuals that have really been a big part of this project and research going forward. So thanks to Dr. Florence Anoruo, Louis Whitesides, the Executive Director of SC State, has been integral in really getting SC State on board with this. Really appreciate him getting us involved from Hempgrid. Abidjan is Acting Extension Administrator. Is doing a great job. Is going to be very working with a lot of you guys out in the field as you begin production this year, 2021 and beyond. Be a big help to you. Lamine Drama is Director of Strategic Engagements and Evaluations. Big help. It's going to be a big part of all the strategy that goes along with building the supply chain out. I serve on the board of the State Extension Advancement Council for South Carolina State University and Clemson University, chairman of the Strategic Partnerships Committee. So strategic partnering in this industry is paramount. Find people that you want to work with, work together to learn from each other and help each other with your crop, your harvest, and your production and sales and retail and distribution. Vanessa is Agriculture. She's the hemp program coordinator. She's going to be a big help when it comes to anybody any questions that you may have when it comes to rules and regs. These are folks. The next little bit of slides, I'm going to go into who you can reach out to for more information. And SC State obviously is the first touch point. SCDA is huge. And then when it comes to certifying organically or seed certification, Clemson University is going to be the entity that helps you out there for now. David DeWitt and Kelly Flynn at Clemson can help you when it comes to organic certification, seed certification, things like that. Here's a few more just logos of entities that I use for more information. I already mentioned SC State, USDA, Clemson, SCDA. Top left there, you see the Hemp Industry Daily. I check that every day. Keeps you up to date on the news in the industry. Here's some list for buying and selling some sites there. The Hemp Exchange is a brokerage company for buyers and sellers. Hemp X down here is the same. Check those out. You can learn a lot about market forces and how the buying and selling works in those two sites. These other logos are for sites that or associations or a forum. The Future 4200 is a forum that you can learn a lot, Q&A type of information when it comes to in the industry. Lastly, I will go through a little bit about Hempgrid and what we're up to, working with South Carolina State and other companies and universities around the country to try to help build out the supply chain. We're involved in the health and wellness side, the environmental remediation side, adding digital blockchain components to the industry to help build out supply chain, as well as the fiber, which I think personally is going to be the most sustainable long-term industry around this plant for farming communities. Just you can go back and look at this slide. It shows you a little bit about how we work together to innovate, everything from the financials through sales and marketing, legal compliance, operations management, and sustainability. All of these, dots connect with each other in order to create a sustainable supply chain, something that is still very immature in this industry, that South Carolina State University and Hempgrid are trying to assist with and promote and accelerate. This is a chart slide on purpose to show you how many companies, how many industries will be touching the hemp plant as we move forward. I can look and see all of these entities and how they will play into whether it's packaging, water management, looking at any type of textile development, fuels, the list goes on, and we'll go into more details about each of those in the webinar. Thank you all so much for your patience today with my audio issues. Here is my information, my email address and my phone number. Please feel free to reach out to me at any given time. In addition to your great support you have there at South Carolina State University. I want to thank again all the South Carolina State staff and faculty for allowing me to come and talk to you guys today. Looking forward to our next one, and hopefully I'll have all of my audio issues worked out by then. I think we have some time for some questions, so I'll be glad to work with Dr. Anoruo to address any of those.
Yep. Thank you, Jason. This is Liz. I will kind of go through our the chat box and see what questions we have for the both of you. I did see some come through. So as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please feel free to place them in the chat box. If you look on your device, it's a little bubble that says chat. So just drop it there and I'll get to your questions as quickly as possible. So the first question, Dr. Anoruo, this came in when you were talking about infestations, and this question, or this person, Charles Prickett, asked, can getting ladybugs help with that? With the infestations on the plant? I think you're on mute, Dr. Anoruo.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, ladybugs, they are one of the biological control agents used for organic farming. So they can help depending on the type of pest. Things like aphids and spider mites and other little pests, yes, they can. So it would be part of your, what I call the IPM, your integrated pest management. So you have to first identify the type of pest that you have, and then decide what the type of pest control. But the answer is yes, but not for all pests.
Jason, did you have something else you wanted to add? Because I think you had mentioned ladybugs in your presentation as well.
Yeah, in 2018, we used ladybugs. Can't remember the exact number we bought. So that one mistake that we made, the first year we were worried about possible theft of the crop, or just, people seeing the crop that was brand new. So we planted corn around our crop thinking it might hide the crop. Well, what did that do? It brought in the silkworm, on the corn armyworm. So trying to mitigate a risk, which was possible theft, ended up creating another risk, which was the pest. We put out ladybugs, try to deal with some of the aphids and other pests. I would say we got fair results. It's sometimes hard to tell exactly, especially when it's your first year. I would say, look at that. It definitely can benefit. Just make sure you manage it against your budget, and that it matches what your total cost of production may be. But they definitely are a beneficial insect predator of non-beneficial insects.
Okay. And Jason, if you could take a moment to stop sharing your screen. So,
Sure.
yeah, thank you. Next question is from Jabrian Grant. What's the typical harvest height of an industrial hemp plant?
Well, I'll answer, and then Jason, you can chime in. Well, it depends on the variety, because different varieties have grow to different heights. And sometimes your nutrient delivery, that's where the soil comes in, can add a little up to the height. So it's hard to say a typical height, but some industrial hemp can, I know the ones that I work with, some of them all were about 6 feet high. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting good um, bud size and things. So the answer is the size varies depending on the variety, and it ranges from 3 feet and not 3 feet to up to 6 feet or more. I know that some of the ones that I work with, we could not even measure because I'm shorter than 6 feet. We couldn't go all the way because we're trying to measure and look at the buds to make sure they're ready. So that's that would be how to look at it. And when you buy your seeds, if you're growing direct seeding or your seedlings, it usually will tell you the height of the plant, but you give and take because it can be a little shorter or it could be a little higher based on how you deliver your nutrients and moisture and all those things.
Most good genetics companies will let you know the proper spacing for those genetics, as well as what the height may be. And yeah, they can get up to 12 or more feet as well. I mean, it all depends. So something we're continuing about.
Yeah, and also one thing I need to add: if you're the fiber varieties, of course, are much taller. So what I was, most of the CBD varieties are the size that I was talking about. The fiber varieties can get up to 12 feet, as Jason had mentioned. So, and again, even the fiber varieties, the height depends on the type or the variety that you're buying. And of course, I know some farmers that I looked at, they increased the space because they thought it would give their, especially for CBD, they wanted to bush out a little more because that would give them more buds. And when you plant them too closely, they can stretch up because of course that's type of stress. So that makes them grow taller. So spacing also makes a whole lot of difference.
Okay. Dr. Joshua Adasi asks, can we broadcast the seeds for fiber production? If so, how do we control the competition with weeds?
Well, for the fiber, yes, you can well, not broadcast, you can do drill hole seeding. Competition with weed, of course, before you plant, you have to have some type of weed control measures, and then look out for the weeds that they're growing as they're coming up. So timing of your planting and making sure that there are no sources of weed around your rows where you'll be planting the seeds. That would help to control the weeds. And then, of course, we mentioned in the discussion about using cover crops or putting some type of mulch in between your rows where you're planting. That would also suppress the weed that would eventually compete with your seeds as they're coming up.
I've never broadcast seeds, but I did for the first time try to direct drill seed last year. It was a combination of environmental forces when it comes to all the rain that we had last year. The year before was dry. We didn't have hardly any rain in June, August. But last year, I believe we didn't have a lot of success direct dribble seeding. We were trying to do that with a genetic. I think broadcasting, would be problematic possibly on the back end. I have experience with it when it comes to trying to harvest and having working rows and be able to mechanically do it. Most people I know that are going to grow for fiber should probably be growing for a larger crop. So you want to do as much mechanical aspects of harvesting and planting and anything around that to keep your costs down. So I don't have any experience specifically with broadcasting, but I think direct drilling, once we know that more about how to do it right, would be the way to go versus broadcasting.
And the other thing also is you're thinking about weeds, but you have another problem if you do broadcasting, the birds will swoop. You are feeding the birds, so and that's why a lot of people do the drill method when they're putting their seeds in. So at least you don't have to worry about the birds coming to get them.
And just for those who may be just novel to this whole idea, can you all talk a little bit about the difference of what broadcasting means and drilling?
Okay, so broadcasting, just as it means, is taking your seeds and kind of spreading it around. That's what it means in botanical terms. Just taking the seeds and then spreading them at intervals. Versus drilling mean you have a hole, depending on the specification given. It might be 1/2 inch or 1 inch or 1.5 inch, and then you drop the seed in the hole. So that's the difference of that versus the broadcasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some ideas on equipment. Looking last year when it comes to how large your acreage may be on drills. Anything from a push, gang seeder to attachments to your tractor. That's most to me separately. I could go through my experiences with that last year.
Okay. Have either of you have any experience with silver plastic? Working with silver plastic? I'm trying to find a question that just moved up on me. Silver plastic for hemp production?
What, silver plastic for hemp production?
Uh-huh.
No, I have not.
I've never used any plastic personally. I know a lot of people find it beneficial. I have not used plastic.
Okay. There's a question in here on whether or not SC State 1890 Research and Extension works with participants outside of the state, in North Carolina in particular, and we do not. And so definitely reach out to our partners in the land grant system at North Carolina A&T or North Carolina State University. Next question from Derek Muhammad. Having a buyer is important, but how do you find them if you're new to the business?
You want to take that one, Dr. Anoruo, or?
Go ahead and take it.
So multiple different ways. They're going to trade shows, going to the sites I listed on my slides a little bit earlier that you'll be able to review later. Are good places to go. Getting out there, networking. It is right now. It's a challenge. Like I said, there's a lot of people sitting on a lot of product right now that is not being sold because the price point is so low. Because the supply has happened. The supply increased so dramatically over the last couple of years. But you really have to hit it in multiple different ways, between networking, between getting out to trade shows, which obviously we can't go do as much anymore because of the pandemic. Communicating with your University of South Carolina State, which will help put you in touch with more resources. Communicating with me, I can put you in touch with more resources. But it really is, you have to hit it multiple different ways. We, Noto myself can give you more ideas specifically on how to do that if you reach out to us.
So also to add to what Jason just said, we'll also have a list of resources as part of our service to the public. USDA also has resources on seed companies, but we do not recommend any particular seed to individuals. We point you to the direction and give you some of the specifics for the seeds, which you make your own decision for legal reasons. And also to touch, just do a little touch on the question about North Carolina outside of, if we work with people outside of the state. We do not, but for research collaboration, if a university wants to partner for research collaboration, we are open, to that, but we cannot work for farmers from other states. So just wanted to make sure.
So the next question is about funding. Where does one find funding? I know last week during our presentation, we had Farm Service Agency for Orangeburg County, and they talked about funding or loan opportunities available through FSA. And not that we endorse any one commercial bank, but during one of another presentation, we had Optus Bank, which is in Columbia, South Carolina, and they also have opportunities for funding. Dr. Anoruo or Jason, are there any other options that you wanted to mention? Or how does one get funding for hemp production?
Well, I can take a say something, and then Jason can weigh in, especially being in the industry side of it. Well, the Farm Service Agency is a place to start with, and then I believe Act Out. You might also check their website and see if they have any resources. And then there are some grants that are out there for farmers, beginning farmers, and then you have to look and see if they apply to industrial hemp, because some of the those grants have specification on the type of crops that you can apply for, and so those are some of the resources that I can think of right now. The USDA right now does not have any funding sources, but they're hoping that in the future that might be so.
Yeah, there are, smaller investors that used to be around a few years ago. A lot of the investment has dried up because of the price pressures that happen in the market. One of the reasons why I recommend, if you're new to the industry, to start smaller, is because you're probably going to have to self-fund. So you don't want, I honestly, not to discourage anybody, but I really recommend that if you make this industry, you plan not make money your first year. You plan to learn. So you want to keep your costs as minimal as possible so that you can learn that first year until we really see how the market is going to stable out. I think the prices are kind of stable now, but there's small funding amounts here and there when it comes to investors and some grants here and there, but you should plan to self-fund. Is my recommendation.
Next question: what are the limits to heavy metals?
Heavy metals?
Yes.
There's zero tolerance as far as I'm concerned, especially for CBD oil. Majority of the maybe the fiber, I'm even sure with the fiber, is probably 0. I think it's about 0.00 parts per million, which basically they're telling you you don't have anything in the soil. But that's the limit for CBD. There should not be any traces of pesticides or heavy metals in particular in your CBD plants.
Okay. Can you just grow in a greenhouse instead of a field? Ask Clyde Johnson.
Yes, you can. Jason, you can talk. Yeah, yes, you can. Jason can give you a little more.
We did both. We use our greenhouses to basically prepare our genetics for the field, as well as doing cloning and transplant production and research, R&D. However, there are plenty of operations that grow exclusively in a greenhouse or indoors in a facility. A lot of more harsh climates out west, in Colorado, California, Oregon, a lot of them grow indoors. You obviously can manage your environment a lot tighter when you have that greenhouse protection or that indoor protection than you can in the field. So if you have the ability to get growing in a greenhouse, you really can produce a higher quality plant because you control the environment, the soil, etc.
So the only thing with the greenhouse, there are limitations, just like any other crop in the greenhouse. But the greenhouse is really good for cloning and breeding, producing hybrids, because it gives you that controlled environment, as he mentioned. So, so for CBD, yes, I'll probably say yes to greenhouse, but I would not recommend fiber for greenhouse because of the height of the plant. And then, of course, you need a whole lot of acres for fiber to make money out of it. So CBD production, yes, but fiber, no.
And we'll go in the series going forward. We'll go into cost of production, modeling, and how to look at, okay, what am I growing for? What is the price point? How much is it going to cost me, so that you can work backwards into your margins and your risk.
Okay, we have a few more questions. I know we're kind of over time, but I know these questions are important. So, what chemicals can we use for stink bugs?
On the slide, I had a list of EPA-approved chemicals. The neem oil product is one. It's one good one. So I'm trying to remember all of them, but that slide we'll probably share. They will see the recording. When they send the recording, they'll see all of that. There are about 57 approved EPA biopesticides. Very important. Biopesticides means that they derive from natural sources, plant, extracts basically. And so those are good for that control.
Okay. What is a good source of nitrogen?
I have those listed on my slides as well. You can go back and look at those. Multiple different types. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You need all those levels can be adjusted with mixed products that you can get locally in Orangeburg and locally around the state.
Nathan Kimsey asks, should I keep my outdoor grow away from his cornfields?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
For the reasons that Jason mentioned, the corn brings in its own pests, and the pests know no boundary. They're gonna go from the corn to your hemp, and also there are other things that might, just the pests and diseases as well. Diseases that are root-borne, soil-borne diseases can migrate and get into your area. So the answer is yes. Keep your corn away from your hemp plant.
Just know those risks will be there. I mean, you don't want it right next to it. Obviously, there's a lot of corn around South Carolina, so take a look and see what how far away it is, but don't plant right around your field like I did. That was a mistake. I learned the hard way. And one thing to think about is just there's always going to be pests. Trying to deal with things with different types of alternative methods, organic methods. One thing I like to repeat to folks is the best fertilizer or pest management is the farmer's footsteps. So this crop is very labor intensive. You're going to have to be out there in the field on a regular basis, looking at your crops, checking for pests, checking for pythium, checking for mites, all the different types of diseases or fungal infections that can happen. It's not put a seed in the ground and walk away and come back a few months later. That's something really I don't think I addressed that is important. You really have somebody look, if you're going outdoors or in greenhouse, you have somebody look.
And the other thing that I'll add too, which is very important, and he mentioned is a labor-intensive crop to grow. Remember, in order to keep your THC level at a threshold, the SD and the state office will come to take samples before you harvest, your final harvest, to make sure that the THC level is there. But you as a farmer would have to be sampling periodically to make sure that your plant has not gotten hot at any point in time. As I mentioned, there's so many factors that can make your plant get hot. Hot meaning that your THC level has passed that threshold of 0.3%. And so periodic sampling by you, the farmer, gives you an idea where you are. And then you can tweak things around. Either nutrient or water stress can spike your THC level and mess up your crop.
As a follow-up question, Mr. Kimsey asked, he's heard that you should not grow your crop near an old pine tree field or even close to a pine tree grove. He asked, is that true? And if so, why is that?
Well, I can answer, then Jesse can chime in. Well, the pine is an acid loving plant. So typically around the pine grove or pine trees, the pH level is down, and the pH, the hemp, industrial hemp has to have a pH that is at least above 5.5, but usually close to 6 or 6.5, and that also affects your CBD oil production and your THC level threshold. So if you grow in a pine grove, your soil is definitely going to be acidic. You can lime the soil and bring the pH up. That's adding additional cost to your growing cost.
Did you have anything you wanted to say, Jason?
She nailed it.
All right, so Jason, I think this is directed to you, more so about your experience of planting. How many acres did you all plant? How many plants per acre? And how did you find a buyer? And who are the current buyers?
Okay, so 2018, planted 30 acres. 2019, we planted two different sites. So 2018, two different sites, 15 acres each. Both of them were in the PD area. Both of them were hit by Hurricane Florence. 2019, we planted 100 acres down the low country, Walmalaw Island. Did not recommend that. The person who hired us to do that wanted to do that. That to me is entirely too much, but they wanted to try it out. They had the land, so we did it. I planted 100 acres down the Walmalaw Island in 2019, and about 50 to 60 acres in the Midlands. Similar genetics. So, and then last year, just due to the market forces, planted 20 acres in Lexington County. So that's my experience. I know how to plant 100 acres. I don't know how to harvest 100 acres because Hurricane Dorian. So, you know, one of the biggest pests has been hurricanes for us. My experience here. It's just something to think about. And then I believe the second part of that question was, how do we find buyers and how do you find buyers? We had a buyer pre-set up for year one. It was a company out of Kentucky. That company is no longer in existence. That shows you a lot of market forces that are going on. There's a lot of bankruptcies going on in the country, in this industry, larger businesses especially. That's why I said start small. That was trying to sell 30 acres and then 100 acres. So you're looking for a large buyer. Finding the buyers now, if you go to those sites that are on my presentation, which we'll get after this, we'll show you a few places. The Hemp Exchange, the Future 4200 site, the Hemp X, and as well as picking up the phone, giving me a call or an email. again, I'm kind of like, South Carolina State University. I will help guide you to the right places to find information. Everybody's situation is different. You'll have to kind of, after you do the research, figure it out for yourself on what the best situation for your individual production.
Okay.
You also mentioned, one of our partners, it's Brightmouth Farms, that is also been doing a lot of work on genetics and clone production, and so we will have a lot of resources from that partner. And if there's any way that his service can be of service to anyone, then that would be great as well.
So I'm gonna ask 2 more questions. I know we're about 15 minutes over our time. So let's see. Buck Ricks asks, says he's going to grow fiber strains for a maize, and he wants to know if he can use Roundup or pre-emergence with the fiber strains.
Did he say for what? What is he growing the fiber for now?
For a maize?
For Maine?
Maize. M-A-Z-E.
Maize.
Like a maze, is that like a maze, like a corn maze, like you do during harvest season? And that, I honestly, I'll jump in here. I don't recommend anybody use, Roundup as a carcinogen. And even though the fiber will be, not put inside the human body if they're growing it for just a maize purposes, I would get out there and hand cultivate that, or some machinery. I would not use Roundup personally.
Last question. What is a good crop rotation plan involving hemp in South Carolina?
Well, you would probably look for crops that would add back nutrients to your soil, soybean, and then legumes. They are nitrogen rejuvenating plants, and so they'll add back nutrients to the soil. That would be a good choice. There is a whole list of legumes that you can use as rotation crops. So the next time around, your soil is rejuvenated rather than being depleted of the nutrients that in there. I wouldn't use corn as a crop rotation because corn is a high nutrient demander.
And in some regions of South Carolina, in the winter time, in the off season, you can plant winter rye,
Yes.
et cetera, to help bring back nutrients to the soil in the off season before you plant next year. Some of those ideas are listed on my slides as well.
Yeah, and wheat as well. Wheat is also good. Oats, and so those are for winter, plants, and those actually help to inoculate your soil to some extent. Some research shows that the wheat and the winter rye actually introduce some chemicals that would be able to fight diseases in the country. So if you grow the wheat or the rye or the oats, then there's a chance that your soil is pre-inoculated against certain diseases, but not all. When you plant your hemp next time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Anoruo and Jason. We really do appreciate you all taking the time to answer these questions and, of course, working together to provide this series of webinars. We will definitely provide the recording of today's webinar to those who have registered. We will use the email address that you use to register for this event. Could someone please mute your device? I'm wrapping up. We will also send additional information regarding coming webinars as well in this webinar series. So please be on the lookout for that as well. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and get more information. If you have any specific questions about 1890 or how you can get involved with our program, definitely send us an email at scstate1890, that's 1890 at scsu.edu. I'll pop that in the chat as well. Again, thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you for your patience with my audio. It'll be fixed next time. And anybody can reach out, call me, or email me, Jason.Eargle at hempgrid.com. I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks, guys.
And thank you, all of you, for listening to us. And we hope to see you not too long. I'll give you some more information. So thank you, and go out and grow hemp if you want to. Bye-bye.
Hey.